Dear friends, today I will tell you a heartbreaking story that will make you cry. A girl who was a hafiz of the Quran was buried after her death, and fire was seen burning on her grave. What sin did the girl commit that such an incident happened on her grave? What sin did the girl commit that Allah gave her such a punishment in this world? To know, you have to watch the whole video. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Let us hear from her and what happened to this woman. My name is Mahsin. I am the only child in my family. The total number of our family members is 4. Me, my parents, and one of my cousins who was just like my mother. One day when I was in college, my mother died suddenly, which left me devastated. Only my father-in-law and my father remained in my family. My father and mother-in-law gave me a lot of emotional support to forget my mother's grief. Gradually, over the years, I was able to overcome my mother's grave and then resume my studies. As soon as I finished my studies, this time my mother-in-law asked me to marry her, and I agreed. As soon as I said yes, I fell in love with the bride. My mother-in-law told me that there is a girl she knows in her in-law's house. She is a very good and devout girl. She recites 5 times namaz kalam. There is no father at home. He takes care of 2 younger sisters. Didn't study too far, just memorized the Quran. With that knowledge, 2 or 4 children are given religious education at home, and being well educated can earn fairly well. With this income, he again educates his younger siblings. Knowing about these qualities of the girl, I was very happy and agreed for the marriage. Before the marriage, the girl gave me a condition that even if she gets married, she wants to educate her younger brothers and sisters as before and pay for their expenses. I also agreed. I thought I would also help them a little. It is an act of virtue. Then we got married, just as my wife had no lack of virtue, so there was no lack of form either. Fascinated by his looks and qualities, I gradually fell in love with him. Due to him, happiness flowed in my family life. Due to his influence, I also started to be engrossed in the worship of Allah. 3 years of marriage passed in this way, during which my father died. This is the grief of losing the father. Secondly, we were not having children then. 2 wounds were holding me together. My wife used to comfort me, saying to be patient, God is there. I used to wonder how, being a girl, she felt the lack of children and still had the patience. On the other hand, my mother-in-law was driving us crazy. Why are we not having children? Constantly insulting my wife as if only my wife was likely to be a problem. They used to tell us to treat the child needs. If I said something, he would get into a fight again. This is how it went. Finally, after 6 years of marriage, we got the biggest happiness news of our life. My wife is pregnant. We are overjoyed. I started taking a lot of care of my wife because the doctor said she needs a lot of care. I felt like I wouldn't let him get out of bed. Anyway, after 9 months, that auspicious day came. Our child arrived in this world. Our son came into the world completely healthy and strong. But disaster struck when I came to know that my wife was physically very ill. I didn't want that. I didn't want my wife to leave me somehow. So why is this happening? I raised my hands to Allah and began to pray, "Oh Allah, heal my wife, return her to me." But Allah did not accept my prayer. As my wife died, she left me. I could not accept my wife leaving like this. I was completely broken. Crying, I finished the last bath of my wife, took her to the graveyard. The sky was covered with dark clouds. Even during the day, it seemed like evening had come. Akash was crying with me as if he understood the pain of my broken chest. I left my wife under the ground, returned home and went to my room. My son is being looked after by the people of my wife's father's house, so there is no worry about the son. I came to my room and thought of my wife and felt sad for her. I don't know when it was night and when I fell asleep. In my sleep, I suddenly saw my wife crying a lot. This is not supposed to happen. My wife was a very cheerful woman, so why cry? What is he trying to tell me? I woke up, I saw that it was dawn time. Already the sky has cleared, the rain has stopped. I prayed the Fajr prayer, prayed to Allah for the peace of my dead wife's soul, prayed to relieve her from the torment of the grave. Although I knew that Allah would remove the torment of the grave from my wife, because she was a good enough woman, she recited prayers and memorized the Quran. Naturally, he has achieved all the pleasures of Allah. After finishing the prayer, I looked around and saw that everyone was praying. I went out to my wife's grave intending to read the Quran for her. But what is this? Even after so much rain, it is seen that the soil of his grave is cracked and smoke is coming out from inside. But why? Why did Allah send down such punishment on the grave of a believing servant like my wife? Seeing such a scene, even a strong person like me was shaken from the inside. It's raining heavily, but smoke is coming out of his wife's grave. But I do not know the real identity of my wife. As far as I know, in all these years, he has not committed any sin for which he deserves this punishment, even if I look for it. It is not possible for me to find fault all the prayers, all the good deeds he has done. But why? So these 6 years, I did not recognize him. Allah surely knows his servant more than me. Then what? Thinking about this, I saw that my wife's grave must be fixed. I called people, but no one agreed to fix her grave. Then I found a person who took 4 times the money from me and fixed the grave and again stayed at a distance. I returned home with a head full of thoughts and deep pain. When I came home, I asked about my son. My wife's brother gave him to me. I sat holding my son to my chest for a long time. Everyone thinks that I must be so sad because of the loss of my wife, but I have other thoughts in my head. I was very surprised, and I was also suffering. I could not recognize my wife for so many years. I could not know about her sins. If I had known what sin he was committing, I could have stopped him. The day was going like this. I was praying to Allah for my wife, and I was locked in my room all day. I have no information about who is watching my son, who is feeding me. Only my wife is in my thoughts. One day, suddenly, my cousin came to my room. When I heard what he said to me, I turned red with anger. Because my wife died not even 21 days after the end of the Darin, he's asking me to marry him. At least he didn't say that so soon, where he could see how sorry I am for my wife. He told me that he is old and very sick now. He has no strength to take care of me or my son. Of course, he did not say anything wrong. He is old enough. Finally, I agreed for the marriage, thinking about my mother-in-law. But what girl I wanted. I didn't have any such mindset to accept anyone as my wife. I said yes to marriage and left the house for work. I know that as soon as I leave the house, my mother-in-law will start planning for the wedding. Anyway, when I returned home, I saw that my mother-in-law had already fixed the girl and arranged the marriage ceremony. Since I have to get married, I sit down to get married quietly without saying anything. I got married. Then I found out that my wife's sister is my second wife. It made me feel worse. Still, I started being myself without saying anything. I know I will never fall in love with anyone as deeply as my wife. I was wondering if this wife of mine will be like my previous wife. Will he be so faithful? Can she take care of everything like her big sister? I didn't think so. As the days went by, I saw her tidying my house quietly, taking care of my son, not saying anything to me. I have not even seen his face till today, not before. Since my wife was a Hafizi, she was quite aware of the veil and the mahram person. She used to veil her younger sister as well. Anyway, one day I came back from work early in the evening. I came back and saw my second wife feeding my son. Surprisingly, she is much more beautiful than my wife. Her eyes are very soft. She is smiling and feeding my son. Seeing this scene, my anger rose. I felt that my wife's death was not saddened by her sister. So I got angry and told him everything. Even in anger, I told him about the incident of his wife's grave. Immediately I regained consciousness and fell silent. But hearing my words, it seemed that the sky had fallen on the head of the wife's younger sister. She started crying a lot. After a while, I was quite surprised to hear what he started telling me. He was saying I was afraid of this. I thought my sister's grave would have such torment. And lo and behold, it came true. I was surprised to hear this, and asked him what was the real story, because by now I understood that my first wife knew everything about my second wife. He didn't want to say it at first, wanted to change the subject. But when I insisted, he told me the real story, which made me feel as if the ground had moved from under my feet. He said my sister was quite a good servant. She used to read the Quran. She used to pray well. One day a child in the house next door to us was crying sick. Then my sister read some Quranic verses to him and blew it, and the child got well. After that, my sister's name started spreading around. Everyone used to come to my sister to get amulets for illness. She used to earn money by making amulets for everyone, and that was how our day went. Once in between, my brother fell ill. His kidney failed and he needed a lot of money for his treatment. But we didn't have that much money. The two sisters were dying. In the meantime, a person came to my sister. He tells my sister he likes a girl, but she is married. So a talisman should be given to my sister so that the girl gets divorced. My sister refuses because it is forbidden in Islam. After that, the man showed his sister a greed of 1.5 lakh taka, and my sister's faith was sold for this 1.5 lakh rupees. He gives the amulet to the man, and the girl is separated. My brother was treated with that 1.5 lakh taka. I still didn't know these things very well. After that incident, more people came to the sister from all around. One day I saw my sister writing Quran verses upside down. That means he is doing black magic. Seeing my sister doing this, I realized how bad she is doing to people and has completely gone against Islam. I restrained him, saying that it was losing his faith. He said, "By doing this, our brother's life was saved. We will prosper." I said it was better for him to die than to save his life with haram money like this. I wanted to bring my sister back to the path of Allah to repent, but she did not listen. He got married and continued his crime. Meanwhile, I was praying to God to free my sister from the torment of the grave. But nothing happened. I could not bear to hear such things about the wife whom I loved so much, whom I knew. I never expected to go away, never realized he would do that. And when I saw the second wife, I was wondering if she would be as faithful as my first wife. But it turned out that there is no adulteration in her faith. I have nothing more to say. Astaghfirullah, audience. What a tragic fate of the sister. So a request to all of you. Please do not indulge in any sin that may result in suffering like this. It can be seen that for some reason he got sick and did not even get time to repent like his sister. May Allah guide us all. Be sure to give a like to the video, and to get more Islamic videos regularly, subscribe to our Islamic channel and press